Welcome, everyone. Can you hear me? No, not for this. But can you hear me if I do this? This is my natural voice, so it's probably easier this way, actually. Welcome, everyone. It fills me with great joy to have all of you here today. Sure, thank you for being here. Oh, and bear with me as we go through this. This is an informal service, so at any time, if you would like to get refreshments or move around, please feel free to do so. I believe I know everyone, but I am Amanda, Grandpa, as I will refer to him today, instead of Jerry. But I am a granddaughter, and very special memories that are playing here as we go on. But make sure I'm not missing anything here. Today we'll be having amazing music, we will have some history, and we will have time to share special memories of Grandpa and how he impacted all of our lives. So I'm looking forward to hearing memories that other people have as well. So to start it off, Marcia, would you like to I don't know if you need, is this anything on?
Just check your voice.
Okay.
Those teacher voices.
Does it work?
No. No, I'll use my teacher voice. So, anybody recognize sand candles?
Yeah.
All of this.
You all do, okay. So, Jerry was a very, very special part of my life. When I retired in 2003, I became the elder in charge of parish life. And I inherited Jerry and Esther along with some other people on this committee, but they were the backbone. For years, we decided to have an event every month. And some of them were really fun. And Jerry had the ideas. Esther would roll her eyes and then she would jump in and do things to make the ideas happen, but Jerry really had the ideas. I can remember two that were especially memorable. One was a dim sum dinner, which had many courses, and I think they started cooking 3 days ahead. And everybody had all these little plates with all this wonderful food, and that was Jerry and Esther. And then there was the Mother's Day tea, where we wore we did a modeling of our wedding dresses, or someone else in our family put on our wedding dress and modeled them. And we had all these little wonderful, it was like high tea, and of course Jerry and Esther did all that work. Almost every picture I have of them, they're together and they're in the kitchen. I have a picture of this whole room filled with people. Jerry and Esther are back there. And it's just, they always took on all the work. So Jerry was really a team player. I mean, it was so much fun to work with him because you just get ideas and then go with them. But he didn't just do events and cooking. He started our church website. He was the #1 person. He said, we need a website, and he did it. He got it going. You may not even know that, but it's still going. He also did, of course, the candles at the Advent Fair every year for, Jill and I were saying, we don't know how many years, but a lot of years. And he was always the first one here and the last one to clean up and put everything away for the next year, so it was all ready to go the next year. At the caroling party, he and Esther always stayed in the kitchen, made the dinner, so when we came back tired and cold, we'd have hot cocoa and potato bar, and they were amazing. Something else, though, that he did, you may not all know about this. You know, he worked for a publishing company, and his publishing company published a book by a woman named Diet Eman. She was from Holland, and she, at the beginning of her life, early in her life, when she was a teenager, was in the Dutch resistance during World War II. And Jerry decided that she was so amazing that he brought her here to Ashland. He had a big event at the church where we all came and listened to her speak, and she came to my classroom at the middle school and spoke to the kids about the things she did. First of all, she led a lot of resistance, and then she was put in a camp, and for a long time she pretended to be mentally challenged. She never came out of her character, and she eventually escaped in a pile of dung in the back of a truck. And she got it. Anyway, she was an amazing woman, and Jerry brought her here and made all that happen. She died at the age of 99 in 2019. I just found a New York Times article about her. So, and she's really interesting. So Jerry was, I would say, generous, hardworking, hospitable, talented. He was an amazing man, and I loved him very much, and I miss him a lot.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I've heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where doubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, why can't I?
Okay, can you hear me now? Yes. A little bit better? Okay. Not as much? Okay. Is this, oh, just be right here? Oh, yeah. Okay. Our next time for sharing is Jill.
I think Marcia and I have similar stories. We both have grown up in this church together with Jerry. So when I think of Jerry, I think of sort of this space, because we used to have our contemporary service in this space, and Jerry attended that, as did I. And he was a faithful member of our 9 o'clock service, but he was always steady and a calming presence in our community. But Jerry just didn't show up. He contributed, whether it was using his publishing background to bring inspiring speakers like Dee Inman, I think is her name, the Holocaust survivor, to share her story, or serving for decades on the Parish Life Committee. Marcia told us about when she retired, Jerry was there for the 8 years or 6 years that Marcia was an elder. I think I must have inherited it afterwards, because Jerry was on it for all my term too, at least 6 years. Jerry was always willing to help out things like setting up, cleaning up after potlucks, flipping hot dogs or hamburgers. He was always here. I also knew Jerry a little bit as a man of precision. You could see it in his garden. Not a single wilted petal or dead leaf among the roses. You could see in the way he taped down the tarps to make sand candles. They were always taped down and they were always exact. You could see it in the beautiful sand candles with just the right amount of wax, color, and width. But also Jerry Jerry had a way of bringing people together. So you know when your kids get to about middle school, they're not always so inspired about church activities. And that was my son. And so I went to Jerry and I said, Jerry, would you ask him to be your helper making the sand candles? And from the time he was in middle school until he graduated from high school, my son was his helper. And Jerry every year depended on John helping him, and I depended on Jerry getting John to church that Sunday. One of the things Jerry got to do is he went with his, I think, college choir to sing in Carnegie Hall, and he spent time practicing and getting ready for that.
The Messiah.
And the other thing he did is he loved mushroom picking. So he was very generous with his time, and many of us went with Jerry at least once and to pick mushrooms. But one of my favorite memories of Jerry and Esther was in 2019. By then, Jerry's health had slipped, or Esther's health had slipped. So the Christmas carolers, instead of being supported by Jerry and Esther, we went to their house. And out came Jerry with his hand around Esther, beaming ear to ear when we're singing Christmas carols. And I have that photo, I'll send it to you. But that's my favorite memory of Jerry. Just loved being involved and having that music.
So we're going to start our time for sharing, and just like the others, I will start another story, and then I'm hoping to open it up to everyone who's interested. The mic does not travel, so if you're up for coming up here and sharing a memory, that would be very, very special. But again, a lot of my core memories of Grandpa and Grandma are in this church and in this room. Grandpa was usually organizing something here, and Grandma was there. And to me, they will always be here in my heart. It's very special to me. So it's special to have all the family here today for that reason. So thank you. Grandpa was many things to many of us. And when we think of Grandpa and Grandma together, most of them evolve around food. But for us growing up as grandkids, and hopefully it's shared between all of us, Grandpa had a very specific food thing that we all did just with Grandpa, and that was Burger King. It was because Burger King had charred burgers and they had flavor. So that Whoppers were the only acceptable choice, or a Whopper Junior. And Dr. Pepper was the only acceptable soda option. I believe later in life it became Pepsi or another version. You guys can correct me on that one. But when I was younger, and it's like ingrained in my brain, was Dr. Pepper. So those are like special things that I have as memories for Grandpa. Also those precision moments. Grandpa was very particular, many times stubborn, and many other things, but that made Grandpa who he was. I have many other stories, and I will continue as we go, but I want others. Does anyone else want to share this time?
Hi, I'm Lori Ann Hunter, and I started as musical director at this church in 2010. I had to look that up because I wasn't sure how long ago it was. And so after the Jubilee Singers, there was a thing we started called the Harmony Ensemble. And I think Jerry was the only male singer in the group. And he was, of course, he had a lovely, lovely tenor voice, but was a little bit nervous about being the only one on the part. And so we ended up having many lovely sort of little, I guess, coaching sessions, anyway, little rehearsals, mini rehearsals, just Jerry and I would get together in the chapel, maybe on a Sunday after church, or maybe it was before the others were gonna come in for rehearsal. And we would sit down and go through the part, or whatever it was that he was gonna be singing. And I don't know how long this went on. I mean, I think, at least for a year, maybe two. But of course, we would talk during that time, and somehow I ended up talking about, my history of, I went to, I was born in California, but my parents moved us to Canada when I was just starting high school. So, but I found myself at one point living in a place called Kitchener-Waterloo, which is outside of Toronto, and Jerry said, "Oh yeah, well I know it." Well, and I found out about his association with Bethel. Of course, there was a big branch of there was a Bethel bookstore in Kitchener, so he knew it well. But not only that, I had also part of my high school, because I ended up not living in the city but living outside of the city. So the high school that I went to drew people from all these little tiny hamlets, not even towns really. But one of the churches that I attended there was a missionary church in the town of New Dundee, and he was like, "Oh, I know the New Dundee Missionary Church." I'm like, "What?" Here I am in Ashland, Oregon, and it seemed like that was eons ago in another part of the world, but he was familiar with it, and that was just so touching that we kind of shared that little bit of history with his association with Bethel. And then, of course, the Harmony Ensemble eventually did morph into a choir, and there were other people singing, so that musical association went on for some time. And I think the last time that maybe one of the last times that I saw Jerry was when Esther was still alive, but I went over to bring some chicken soup or something, and Jerry and I just ended up having a kind of an impromptu. I sat down at the piano and started playing through some hymns, and she came over and we started singing together, and it was just very, very sweet. And but has remained just somebody has a very, very special place in my heart.
Anyone else?
There's one picture coming up here that I don't think should be in here. It's the one where he looks like he's a prisoner of war. And he has to sell books. And that's cool. I didn't meet Jerry until just before Dan died. And Esther was failing. And Jerry called me up and said, "Would you have coffee with me at the Starbucks at Albertsons?" I didn't even know who he was. I had met him at church, but I didn't remember his face, so we met there. So he bought me a cup of coffee and a pastry, and he had a glass of water. And I said, "What's the deal? Don't you drink coffee?" He said, "No." And then he proceeded to talk to me about hospitality. He wanted me to know what he thought about hospitality. That was the beginning of our friendship. After that, periodically, maybe once every 3 weeks, we'd get together. He'd invite me over to the house. And then when Dan died, Pat and I tried to be supportive. Pat went to the funeral. And then when Esther was failing, we were there quite a bit trying to be supportive. The highlight of that time was the funeral for Grandma, and how this family came together in the sanctuary and praised these two people who basically made their mark in this community by through hospitality, through making food for other people. Well, the other thing that came from that event was Jerry's heart was broken when Esther died. My father told me when I was about 6 years old, he was a tool and die maker and a very fine mechanic. And he said, "Sammy, I can fix anything but a broken heart." And that's one of those pieces of wisdom you get from a parent that lives with you all your life. Because a broken heart can't be fixed. It can be mended. In the case of Jerry, he was really broken by the death of Esther. It was chronic. It was daily. I visited him a lot in those last few years before Lori and Jerry moved up to Oregon City. And it usually started with us talking about his broken heart. And he cried a lot. I came to think that I came to this church in order to witness the tears of Jerry Freed. And while I was witnessing the tears of Jerry Freed, I was noticing just how much time and care and love Lori was giving to her dad. It was amazing. She was his next door neighbor. This reminded me of my childhood when I lived in a very crowded part of the east side of Buffalo, where all the people had relatives within 2 or 3 doors, and they lived upstairs in the upper flat. And Jerry and Lori were dealing with their broken hearts together. And at the same time, Jerry was talking to me about, when do I get to die? And that always led to a lot of laughing. We kidded a lot about his desire to die, and what did I think about that? One thing Jerry was excellent at was asking questions and telling stories. But like a lot of people, it's a rare person that loves to tell stories, but loves to ask for the listener, to tell his or her stories. And that's what it was like with Jerry and me. We would sit there and eat cashews. He always had cashews at a coffee table. And we would tell stories to each other and compare our lives. He was about 20 years older than me. It was a wonderful relationship. I considered him one of my best buddies. And he liked me. Yeah. And he told me that I made him happy. And then I'd have to come back 2 weeks later to make him happy again because his heart was still broken, although the mending was going on. And I think a big part of that mending is because of Lori. So I want to just say to you, Lori, thank you for setting the example of caring for your dad and showing that affection in concrete ways, and for inviting me to be a part of that process with you by calling me up and saying, "Can you fix this faucet?" or whatever. And it was an entree. It was a beautiful thing. Jerry, Lori, Stein the dog, the dripping toilet, and Jerry's tears turning to smiles. God bless Jerry.
And now we have our next song.
Oh Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe display. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When through the woods and forest glades I wander and hear the birds sing sweetly in the trees. When I look down from lofty mountain grandeur and hear the brook and feel a gentle breeze, then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart. Then I shall bow in humble adoration and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art, how great thou art, how great thou art.
For all those wondering if Grandpa's hair was white, always, you can tell from the photos, the answer is yes. I also wanted just a few more memories before I open it up again. Again, with the storytelling, Grandpa was excellent at that, at all family events. And I don't know how many other people knew, but he created a story and a character called Crickety Croakety. I don't know if anyone knew that, but he would do it on our backs as children, and it was a frog. And it had this amazing, and it became an amazing story, but it was a special memory for many of us. I wish he would have actually published it. That was the only thing that I knew that he was more reserved on sharing, because normally everything else was very open to everyone. To jump on morel mushrooms was also a very big passion of Grandpa's. He would go mushroom hunting at this time every year and instilled in all of us the love to do that. But he still wouldn't share his spots. So to this day, I know, like, I couldn't tell you exactly where it is, but if we drive, I might be like, hey, that might be where we're going over there. But he would never really tell us definitively where we were going. So now I'd like to open it up to others again. Maybe Brian. Cause, yeah.
I just wanted to share just one thing, mostly for Adam. When we were first joined the church, we had a basketball team.
Yeah.
And Jerry we'd play at the middle school on whatever night it was, and your grandpa would come out, he still had beans. And you're wearing your basketball shoes, so I just had to throw that in there for this comment for the day. But he was a man of many, many talents and just a great human being.
I might follow up on that. I'll come up there. Because I was going to share that with you too.
Oh yeah, just watch the cord.
Let's put the people in this room.
So, yeah, the basketball thing. So, Cause, you were on the team, or two, and then Brad Roop, and I don't know. Brian, and were you on it, Steve?
I was a hanger-on.
Yeah. And my husband was on
I'm
it.
short.
And Jerry was on it. And I was going to say, he was their secret weapon. So the other team, they didn't see him coming. So here's Jerry with his white hair. Everybody else is younger. And anyway, they put him at the top of the key. Nobody's paying attention to Jerry. And they give him the ball, and he just shoots it, and he sinks almost every time. Almost every time. He's a really good shooter. One of my first things with him, though, I was a deacon, and we wanted to make cards. And so I went over to Jerry's, and he, because of his publishing background, we had all sorts of cards. Get well, birthday. Anyway, it was really fun. But also, at the end, I visited with him too. And he was just easy. You felt like you could trust him. You were safe. And we had some real deep spiritual talks, and just sharing. But anyway, and I also gave him the nickname Shooter. And so that was it.
Something else I wanted to add as the photos are going, I don't know how many of you noticed the Christmas tree kind of repeatedly happening, and Adam could tell you more about the Christmas tree because that's been his true particular thing too. But Grandpa's Christmas tree was a specific tree. Do you know the type of tree?
He was a silver noble.
There you go. And it had to be just so, and for all of the grandkids, it was off limits. You could not touch it, and very particular. So him, the one standing with him next to the tree, those were his very special, done just so moments as well with the tree. And I believe that instilled so much in Adam that one time when we were all in Tahoe, he took it upon himself. We were only there for a short time. He went off into the woods, and I can't remember if it was Derek or Brady.
We cut down the rock.
He cut down a tree with a rock to bring it back to the house because we needed a Christmas tree. So it's amazing how those traditions and things pass down and how it connects all of us.
And the family secret about that is that tree was the neighbors in the neighbor's yard.
It wasn't a neighbor, it was some resident.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who would like to share?
Yeah, I will. Go ahead.
Well, we see a picture go by Jerry playing the accordion. We're going to have to talk about it. I'm not a major accordion fan, but playing music was a big deal with him, and I shared that. He was a big fan of big band jazz. I don't know if you know that. He kept inviting Lynn and I to come with him to wherever he had found that was going to be like Eugene.
Yes.
We finally went, and he really enjoyed that live. And it inspired me, and I later have joined the Southern Oregon Jazz Orchestra, which is a big band. And it's been such a resource for me, meeting other players and getting gigs and learning about what other people are doing. And that I wouldn't have done that without Jerry. He was just an inspiration, as well as a good basketball player.
So, I got to know this family through Lori, and one of the things you'll hear through the theme of all this is service. You know, you just either have a service sort of ethos that flows through your family or you don't. And I got kind of involved with that, which was kind of fun. Lori had always wanted to be there for her mom and dad. And at one point she said, Mike, I've got 3 houses. I can finally afford a house. Like 3 houses. Will you look at these houses with me? I'm ready to buy a house. I said, all right. We looked at the house. It's a nice house. Good house. She said, I can afford that house. Looked at the second house. Good house. I can afford that house. Third house. Good house. You can afford the house, right? She said, so which house should I get? I said, you know, they're just good houses. But Lori's stronger than she looks. She's like, which house? She pressed me and pressed me. If I said, none of them. And she said, what? I said, they're not, you're a great homemaker. You're gonna make a nice place for your kids, a nice place for you guys to gather together. But not one of these. There's another house for you. And she was really kind of miffed with me. She's like, you no help at all. Which is usually true. So she kept looking. And service, right? Here comes this house next to her parents' house. Right? And this house is wretched. It's wretched. These people had this brilliant idea, we'll live in Germany, and we'll have these people rent this house from us. And it's great. Turns out they were entrepreneurial. They felt that growing things was what they really wanted to be part of. And they grew so many things with so much light and electricity that they blew the transformer. I didn't know that the owner pays for the transformer. Oh, God. It's only 20 grand. I don't think the folks in Munich were up for that. Bottom line is, over the course of time, she became a servant to these people who were in trouble with this home next to her parents. I know the story gets long, but I'm telling you, the cool thing is, at the end of it all, Lori ends up in the house next to her parents. Not long before her mother begins to fail and fade. And she was with us for quite some time, more and more silent, but always there. You could tell she was there. And Lori took this wretched house, made it a nice house, put her office there, served her parents, served her mother, and then her father. And so I just wanted to bring that back, that whole theme of service. And the other thing I wanted to touch on real quickly, because it touched me specifically about Jerry, and that is he would theme. He would seize on a given concept, and then he would research that, and he would wrestle with it. And I wrestled with it through him, because if you got in proximity, you know, it was kind of like the, you know, brought that energy brought you in, and then you would listen, right? Because it was so heartfelt. And to be very honest, I'm always busy and I don't have time, and I always got to be somewhere else. But I would stop and I would listen and I would say, you know, I want to learn. And then over time I realized he was teaching, but he was also wrestling with his own spiritual journey. He was trying to figure this thing out. And I remember one specifically, he was on the theme of love. And he was on love. I mean, it was a contact sport for him. I mean, it was a thing. And listening to him and having that understanding helped me maybe wrestle with my stuff, you know? So I just want to say thank you to everybody here. Thanks for taking a few minutes, you know, how all this came together. And it was great to be part of that part of his journey and, of course, his life's. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Annie's gonna sing, so I just wanna be sure she's ready. Would there be one more that you'd like to share?
But I can say something.
Good.
So I'm Paul Hazelin, Jana's husband, Jerry's youngest brother-in-law. I wouldn't put my sunglasses on in case I'm hot. But one fantastic lesson that he taught us is the value of just the family time. He always valued that. It was really important to him. He really facilitated it, and that's something that we've brought to our own family. And we do our best to, to facilitate that with our own family, and it was just a super important lesson. I really appreciate that. So, thank you, Jerry.
Oh yeah, see, I'm gonna pile onto that as well. One of the greatest love lessons that Grandpa told me, I was a freshman in college. He told me that love is like a storm, and you ride on it like a boat together. And no matter if the storm is calm or if it is rough, you are riding that boat together. And I will never forget that he said that to me, because it wasn't just about, oh, love, you stick with it. It was the endurance and the togetherness with that. And that was very special for me. It was a core piece of my heart from that story.
You got it, girl.
You got it.
So Annie is going to sing, is this a mic good over here? Would you like to come over here? You just I'm not sure about this one. This one might be pretty good for you. You do whatever you want to do. Yeah, wherever you're comfortable. Yes.
Yeah, it works.
Is that good? Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Oh, this is Annie. She is going to be singing Amazing Grace, and she is a great-grandchild.
Part of that family.
All the way from Texas.
Sorry.
You're good.
Like starter.
Yes.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my
open it up for one last time of sharing. Is there anyone else that has another story that they would like to share?
I just, your mom and dad were always there. If you needed anything, you just, even though you didn't call them, you knew you could. You know, you maybe figure something out, but Jerry would be in the back of the mind, well, we can call him if we need help, or if we needed a meal, or if we wanted to do something. Jerry and Esther were always available, and they just always showed up, you know. And one thing I really appreciated about them is they would drop by. They wouldn't necessarily call, and we were often home, you know, with the kids, or just even now, you know, our lives are flexible, and they would just take a chance and come by, and if we were home, you know, we would visit, and then before they left, there was always a plan to do something then. That wasn't on our calendar before they just chose to drop by, and it might have been morel hunting, or going to their lake house, or just going to the coast, or going to painting, doing something, either at the church or just in life. And not everyone feels comfortable to just drop by. And I really appreciated that. And just the fact that Jerry and Esther, you knew they would always help you if you needed anything. And they were lovely, lovely.
I've just enjoyed so much listening to all of you share all your stories about Jerry. And I especially wanted to thank Sam, because I had those same experiences with your dad during his difficult times. And that friendship we've had over the years has been so much a part of our lives. Ruth Ann and I shared birthdays with both of them. Mine was close to Esther's, and Ruth Ann's to Jerry. So we often go out to dinner here, and yes, we always had Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper too. I don't like Dr. Pepper. And also jazz. You mentioned jazz. Yes. He used to invite us over to their home on the coast near 10 Mile Lake. I can't remember the name of that little town. Lakeside. And we stayed in their place there, always. That was available to us. And we went to the Jazz Festival. I believe it was in Gold Beach. Is that right? Florence.
Yes.
3 times that. 2 or 3 times. So much fun. He had a great time there.
Yes.
We've had so many good memories, and you've shared those with all of us, and so much appreciated.
Thank you. Another memory that wasn't said that kind of sparked into my head, and I wish I had brought one. I don't know how many outside the family knew that he created a family calendar every year. A few years they were unforgiving, and many of us were like trying to hide that page, whichever one it was us. But usually it had every month that it was your birthday, you were the feature.
You didn't send a picture.
Yes, if you didn't send a picture, you usually got something that was in the moment, because Grandpa didn't like the candy shots. He wanted the whatever we were doing, and sometimes it was like this. But
then he found out how to edit.
Yes, yes, it did get. There was one year that, and many of us. It became a good joke later, but there was one calendar that we were all, some of us were women, some of us were men, some of us were muscle men, or many things in between, and it was a good joke maybe a few years later. But those were special memories, and I do still have my stack of calendars in a special place at home. And along with his precision, not all of us could get calendars. The grandkids, all of the kids did, but the grandkids, you could only get them if he believed you were responsible. And that was a thing among many of
of us. I'm not sure how you guys got yours. But some of us, like Jamie and Shauna, had to bring theirs back one year because we had to be sure that they were well taken care of. So that was a true thing. Yes. No, no burping and farting at the table. That was a no-no. Or you were banished to the back room, which was a real thing. And fear for many of us grandkids. Well, after that lovely note, is there any other that would like to be shared? Felt like that. Serena?
Well, for 2 years, I ended up living with Lori. I think I came for treatment one day and needed to stay, so I would check in occasionally with Jerry and Esther if I was going to the growers market or the store, or I found a great deal of melons at the roadside stand, whatever. And so I called one day, and Jerry would always be the one that was on the phone, and he said, I told him I had a proposition for him. I said, well, you know, would you guys like some melon? Well, I don't want you bringing one of those big old melons over here. We can't handle that. And I said, well, how about a little tiny one or half a cantaloupe? Well, that sounds doable. Okay, so I'd take some melon over to him, or I'd be at the store and I'd see, he liked this one specific kind of juice that I can't remember what it was now, but it was a certain brand and it had to be apple cranberry, I think. You remember that kind of juice? And I'd see that in the store and I'd call him and say, oh, no, we're good. We have enough. So when Esther passed, I just noticed that before she passed, I would see the two of them be out in the front yard, and sometimes she would just be sitting in a chair and she would be puttering around doing something, so I'd go out and say hello. But then after she passed, I see Jerry out there, and so I figured, well, I guess I'd have to kick it into gear here. So I'd give him a hard time. I would go out and one day he was raking leaves, and I'd say, you know, I don't think you should be raking those leaves. I said, the man who lives here is very, very particular about how his leaves are. And do you have a license to do this? Did he ask you to do this? And he said, oh, don't you worry about that man who lives here. I think he likes the way I rake these leaves. And so we would just have these really strange conversations like that would go into other places, him telling me things about his life or about their life together, or about Lori. He always was telling me how much he loved Lori and admired her, and the journeys that she'd gone on, and which I would relate to her, and she was like, well, okay. And I said, well, I guess I'm the messenger. But this one day, I found out that he liked Arby's roast beef sandwiches. Oh, yeah. I used to like Arby's many years ago, but hadn't had one. But I saw that there was a place in Medford, and so I called and I said, would you like me to pick up a roast beef sandwich for you? And he said, well, I don't know, that's a little heavy, I can't do that. But we still continued those conversations in the front yard, and one day he said, well, what I'm craving, and this wasn't a Burger King, so he went back on his word on the Burger King.
Was it Wendy's?
I'd like to go to Wendy's.
Yeah.
Would you like to go to Wendy's? And I said, well, I guess, I'd never been to Wendy's before. And he said, well, you drive and we'll go through the carryout. Okay, and he had it all planned already and what we were going to get. And so then I said, well, okay, should we sit in the car? And he said, no, let's take it back to my place. So he actually said, well, come in and we'll clean up the dining room table. And we sat there and we must have talked for 2 or 3 hours. And he just opened up like a book, and he shared so many things with me about being married and how he met Esther and, times with the kids, and it was like he really needed someone to talk to. So that razzing him paid off, because he realized that he wasn't going to get away with a lot with me, so I was going to give him a hard time if he didn't open up. But, he lived such a long, colorful life in so many ways, and was of service to so many people. So, there's one to you,
Is there anyone else?
I'm not very good at speaking at these things, so I asked my daughter-in-law to read a poem for me.
Yeah.
And I wanted to also let you know that I had made bookmarks over there that have some of my dad's sayings.
Oh.
And some of his photos. You know how you took pictures? Yeah, there's bookmarks over there, and there's different ones, so pick the one you like.
Flowers.
And please, yeah, and all his flower pictures, you know, he was a photographer. We loved it. And so they're over on the table. Please sift through and pick one and take it home with you. It's pick the one you like, or pick more than one. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Remembering your dad, the things that he did, to show you he cared, the sound of his voice, the wisdom he shared, a piece of advice you'll never forget, the way that he lived, examples he set, the work he put in to do things well, the places he'd been, the stories he'd tell, his greatest success that he was proud of, his hobbies, his passions, his laughter, his love. When you think of your dad and everything that made him the man he was, his memory lives on through you.
We are going to finish with one last song. Oh, two songs, sorry. Oh, there we go. Gotta flip it to the other page.
I'm just a poor wayfaring stranger, a traveling through this world of woe, where there's no sickness, no toil or danger, in that bright land to which I go. I'm going there to see my father. I'm going there, no more to roam. I'm just a going over Jordan. I'm just a going over home. I want to wear a crown of glory when I get home to that bright land. I want to shout salvation's story in concert with that heavenly band. I'm going
Thank you everyone for coming today. This was very special to hear all of your stories, amazing memories of Grandpa. Also a special thank you to the Council Hall Singers. It's amazing to hear. I also wanted to say another, Aunt Sheila passed 2 months, I believe it was, before Grandpa did. So I just wanted to send love and memories for that as well. Her picture is going through the slideshow.
And that was Dan's wife.
Yes, Aunt Sheila. Yeah, sorry, I'm at a loss for words now, so thank you.
We have our final song that we all sang in Calvin Hall together.
Should we have everyone stand up?
It would be lovely and circle to circle us.
And then hold hands. Mom also says there's a sign-up sheet or a sign-in sheet, and if you have not signed up, please do so.
Get everybody
Scott, is this on? So we don't want to be right in front of that, right?
the sound started.